friends. Welcome back to Connectedness. I'm Fernanda, your host and founder of Filled Cups, and this is a space where we explore what it means to grow, connect, and to trust ourselves, and to show up authentically with each other. Today, we're diving into a topic that's incredibly relevant for anyone who is single and looking for a meaningful, lasting relationship: the expectations we bring into dating. Many of us enter the dating world carrying hopes, assumptions, and past experiences and ideas about what love should look like. Sometimes those expectations help us make better choices and stay true to our values. Other times they can unintentionally create barriers that keep us from seeking partners clearly or being open to connection. To help us unpack this, I'm joined by Amy Schoen, a relationship coach who specializes in helping marriage-minded singles find lasting love. Through her coaching and personal experience, Amy helps people gain clarity about what they want in a relationship, identify what may be holding them back, and approach dating with greater confidence and intention. Today, we'll talk about the role expectations play in dating, how to distinguish healthy standards from unrealistic ones, and what people can do to cultivate the mindset that allows them to be open to meeting the right partner. Amy, welcome to Connectedness.
Oh, thank you, Fernanda. Thank you for having me.
Yes, thank you for joining us today, sharing your wisdom. Amy, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your business and what kind of coaching you do?
Right. I'm a certified professional life coach, and I specialize, like you said, in helping singles find their true love partners. And marriage is a choice. So, like anything, it may not be right for the stage of life you're in. So I myself was single, found myself divorced from my first marriage in my mid-30s, and I was the poster child for motivated to marry. I wanted to be married with a family. I was really disappointed. I never expected to be in that situation in my mid-30s. I actually hired a coach when I turned 40. And through that, I did meet my husband. I had to get rid of some limiting beliefs and kind of see how I was approaching dating. And I did meet my husband, and I got married at 42, and we're celebrating 24 years of marriage this summer. And
Congratulations. That's amazing.
we have an 18-year-old, and life is very exciting at this time of life. So, with still a kid at home. I basically has one more year of high school. So I was actually being sent people to after I met my husband and got married, and I felt that I needed skills. So I did get training and certified, and I'm a PCC with the ICF. And so I've been doing this now for 20 years and have many, positive experiences and success stories.
So are there babies out there called Amy in your honor?
I don't know. I'll have to find out, but I know there are babies. And I also work with, I work from people from 27, let's just say, to into almost 80. So I had my oldest client to get married. He was 77. Now I have a lot of people, a lot of boomers. I work with a lot of boomers now, but they're not necessarily married. So that's a choice. And that's a different thing. Yeah, at that stage of life, that has to make sense for you with your family and your finances and all that.
Totally, I totally get it. Yeah, but they're in maybe some of the ones who are not necessarily married. They are in happy.
They're in significant, very, very committed partnerships and even living together.
Wonderful. Oh, that's wonderful. Okay, so when you work with singles who are looking for a serious relationship, what are some of the most common expectations that you see people bringing into dating?
Well, one of the things is the pacing expectations. One person is like ready to go, and the other person's like, well, maybe they have some trauma or they had a bad experience or they're an introvert, and they're like, not so fast, not so fast. So getting people on the same page. So when someone's ready to be exclusive, and that's one of the things I really work with my clients around, is to build a plan for exclusivity. But I do find when people do the work and they're really clear about who they are and the right partner, there's like a, a recognition, and it just kind of clicks. And on average, my clients get exclusive, not married, exclusive within 3 to 6 dates. Now, the marriage part, there's so many factors around that. And not everyone gets married, as we talked about, but to move it to a more committed situation. And yeah. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
I'm sorry. I just want to make sure I heard it right. You said within 6 to 8 dates, or
3 to 6 days.
3 to 6 dates. Okay, that's pretty good. That's pretty good.
I mean, yeah, but they've done the work, and the other person has knowledge and understanding and things like that. So sometimes when it doesn't move to that degree, there and a lot depends on how often they're seeing people. That's another expectation. How often you see someone, or how much time you spend with somebody. Some people need more time for self, so I see that sometimes. So I'll give you an example. So I have a lady in her 60s, very youthful, active, and she met this great guy, and he kind of has family in her backyard, and that's what she wants. She doesn't want to travel too far for a relationship, and things were going really nicely. But then he took on a consulting job, and he wasn't available. And then he was traveling. And so that kind of like, how can we say, offset the relationship? It kind of like, it was going well. And then all of a sudden, and she says, this is not what I expect. I'm retired. She wants a playmate. So I do see the stage, like what you want and expectations. There's definitely a difference in the boomer of the retired versus the non-retired. In the younger age, it's the having the kids and not having kids thing. Right. So that was what I was struggling with when I was in my late 30s into my early 40s. The men were like, I have my kids already. I don't want any more kids. Right. Or they may never want kids. I have clients who tell me I really don't want children. I'm focused on my career. I'm happy with the way things are. I don't think I can handle that. So that's a big thing. Another expectations is about how much time you spend with friends and family. And I've seen issues around that. And so I just was speaking to a man in his 30s. He's divorced, and he said the reason was that she didn't like being with his family or something like that, or she didn't want to spend much time with his family, and he liked his family. So silly. I mean, it sounds silly, but there's also things around animals. And I have a cat, and I needed a guy who was okay with a cat. But then some people say, I sleep with my dog, and like, I don't want to have a dog in my bed. Right. So there's all these things that can come up that people have to really. Finances is another area around expectations. Who pays for what? And how do you decide that? And today I had a young couple, and it's a very cute story because it ended up well, but they were both like early 30s, both software developers, and he would take her out to dinner, and then they would go back to her place, and they would like listen to music or watch a movie, and he was a perfect gentleman, no hanky panky until they wanted it. And she came, we were coaching. She goes, I don't get it. Why don't we do something more? I said, why don't you ask them? Yeah. So he and men are pretty direct, right? They'll if you ask him, they'll tell you. He goes, well, if you could contribute, we could do more. And she had to make a decision, and she had a value around equal partnership. And I said, why wouldn't you want equal partnership in other areas of your life and not finances? And they were earning the same amount of money. So she had to kind of come to terms with that, and she really liked him and said, yes, I could do that. And so it worked out, and they're married, and I think they have 2 kids, and yada, yada. So,
what a great story. I'm happy to hear that.
But it goes back to the values, and I called her on it because I saw that it was there, and I go very deep into my clients' values, and we really look at it and get a full list of maybe 2 dozen values that you have that you may or may not share with your partner, and which ones do you need to share with a partner? And that's important to look at. And so that's usually where things kind of values being stepped on, things not being aligned. So you have your goals that need to be aligned. You have to want the same things in the same time frame. Your values, your relationship values need to be aligned. And then you have those must-haves and would like to haves kind of things. Like for me, he has to be able to live with a cat. He doesn't have to love a cat, but he has to be willing to live with. I wasn't giving my cat up. I had that cat through my divorce. She was my what do you call security animal, or your mental health animal, that kind of thing.
Right. And thank you so much. That was super deep about expectations and going into the values, which is like one level even deeper, right? And super important. When you're meeting with people who are out in the dating world and they have very high standards, like how do you help them navigate the difference between having healthy standards or being like overly rigid about their standards?
Right. So sometimes people bring things into an expectations and they think, I must have this. So I'm a young woman who's really into being a natural, sustaining, working with the land, and even, cultivating your own vegetables and stuff like that. And, she came and she's like, I really need a guy to have that. And I said, well, that may be really hard. I said, and we have our values, and say, these are the things. So when I do the values clarification session, we really look at what you need to be happy in a relationship. And then we do this exercise called the must-haves and would like to haves. So again, the must-have for me with my husband was he must be willing to live with a cat. And what the like to have is that he really loves cats. Okay. Or I have another example. My would like to have, well, I would like to have a really good dancer because I like to dance. But my non-negotiable is must be willing to get your butt out of the chair and get on the dance floor and make a fool of yourself. Because my ex-husband would sit there and would never get up because he was too worried everyone was looking at him, and nobody cares, right?
Nobody cares. Yeah.
So, but he was very self-conscious. And so that I didn't want this time around.
So like you're saying there's like levels. I love how sorry to interrupt, but I love how you approach it in levels. Like, okay, it would be nice to have somebody who likes to dance, but my non-negotiable, you got to get up. You got to get up and try at least, right?
So in the coaching, what we came to realize was, I said, what if a guy was so I said that you have values that you share and values that are a personal value. So for instance, I'll give you an example. One of my values is being an independent creative entrepreneur, probably like you. It's like what we like to do. We like to create things, and I write a book, and I have my coaching programs, my Motivated to Marry coaching. I'm constantly in creative mode. Okay. Now, my husband doesn't need to be an independent creative entrepreneur, but I had another business when I was dating. I had actually a women's clothing boutique, and I just needed a man who supports me, appreciates, and respects what I do. So there's a difference. He's not an independent and creative entrepreneur. And if he was, I don't know if we could actually get along, because he's my steady Eddie, Yeah. So sometimes, I said to her, I said, it'd be nice if he had that, but most likely wouldn't. But if he could respect you for it, support you, and help you with this, or even, let you appreciate you for this. And maybe you can teach him something that he didn't know, that he's more aware of now, and is happy to support you with this. Right. So in a sense, it's like, with the must-haves and would like, does he really have to have this? Or how does he need to be with this? Because it's such an important part of your life. Yes. So that was the difference. So it opened her up to more possibilities, which is what you need to do, when you're dating, is not, yes, you need to keep good boundaries and keep yourself safe and not let somebody step on your core values and what you really need and respect you.
Mhm.
And it's going to be a different person and there are going to be
Mhm.
differences. So to be able to accept those differences in each other. And so I
Yes.
think, I widen her up to those possibilities.
Oh, this is amazing. I love how much experience you have talking to daters and also drawing from your own experience. And because it really paints a picture of like the challenges that people have when they're out there dating. Do you see for the people that you're coaching, do you see them ruling people out or ruling out potential partners very quickly?
Yeah, that
And
was
do you?
my mistake. I have like the top dating mistakes. And mine was, I mean, I was in my mid 30s, intelligent and whatever. And it's like I was very quick to judge. And so you got to give a nice person a chance. I almost missed my husband. It was my coach who told me to give him a second look. Because and I judged him because he had never been married and he was 47.
Wow.
And
Okay.
so, what are you judging people on? And is it a fair assessment? And
Mhm.
so when I got to spend time with him, and he's an introvert, and I call my introverts like onions. You have to peel the outer layer to get to the juicy stuff. When I spent
Nice.
time with him and I, really listened, and he's good one on one, I learned about him. I saw that he was working on himself. He shares that personal growth value. And that, of course, he wanted to be married. And his last relationship, he was in and out for 7 years, hoping it was going to lead to marriage. Well, the woman was
Mhm.
not even marriage. She was using him.
Mhm.
And I don't even think she was serious about, he was kind of clueless, I have to say, cute but clueless. Um, so he worked on himself. He got some support. He worked with he got a therapist or a group or something, and I like that. I
Yeah.
like that he was working on, and that's a big thing for me is to have a partner who we can talk it out. If we need help, you'll be willing to get help. Again,
Mhm.
my ex-husband, he went to a therapist, but he used it as a way to just lash out at me. My ex had no desire to repair the relationship. He wanted to show me that he was pushing me away.
Yeah.
So I learned from that, and so I wanted a different kind of situation. And I actually wrote a book called Get It Right This Time: How to Find and Keep Your Ideal Romantic Relationship. And it is about making better decisions for yourself and dating with a better decision making tool. So you can go forward more confident and you can know yourself better and know what works for you and what doesn't work for you.
Nice. We'll put all the links in the show notes for the book,
Oh, I
your
appreciate
website, and all your information because it's really good stuff, Amy. I think you have a lot of really good stuff to share with singles, and I really like your message and your methodology and your content. So, can I ask you a little bit about chemistry in early dating? Like, do you feel, and maybe you can also lump in attraction to chemistry and attraction. Like, do you feel like people sometimes put too much weight on it, or do you feel like it's super important? Like, what have you seen?
Well, there is definitely a difference between men and women.
Mm,
But there definitely, I think that people, you do need some chemistry. But
mhm,
so again, it's the introvert extrovert thing. So the introverts hold back, they're evaluators, they're kind of like saying, is this working for me? They kind of hold a little bit about themselves back. So let me give you a story. So I had a woman, she was in her early 40s, and we got her online, and I had done everything with her, and she had what I called an almost not quite relationship previously, and this was in the fall, the summer fall. And January is one of the best times to get online, and a lot of my clients go online. Actually 80% of my successfully coupled clients meet through online dating. So I said you need to go, be online January 1st. And she had everything ready to go, a great profile and photos, and I had helped her with all soup to nuts.
mhm,
And so then this guy reaches out and sees her profile. And then she meets him and she goes, I'm not feeling it. And I'm like, I'm looking at everything. I'm like, this guy, if this guy like fits you to a T. And I'm like, well, go out with him a couple more times. You don't have to say no thank you just yet. Let's just see. And it kicked in for her. And because he was willing to share and be more vulnerable, and so there are these gems out there, and you have to give them a chance. Now that's women. As women get to know men, they can become more attracted. However, men are very visual, and it's kind of like if it's either there or not. I did have one client. He was a very shy male, and he met this woman. He said, "This is bothering me about her," and it was physical. And again, she was like ideal for him. Maybe I said, well, maybe you can look at it differently or something, And I looked at her. I thought she was beautiful. So it's like, well, this bothers me about her, But I said, well, don't, let's just see what happens. Don't, And they ended up getting married and they have a family. And I just actually reached out recently because it was Father's Day and his birthday. And they have a little girl and he's so happy. So sometimes we shoot ourselves in the foot. I've done it. I've made a lot of mistakes. So, I know what they are and I know what we all do, there are things and judging too quickly is one of those things. But if something feels uncomfortable, trust your gut. And we do have this intuition. And it's, there's a great book called Gift of Fear. I don't know if you've ever read it. But a lot of times when we don't listen to our intuition, we get ourselves into trouble. So something's not right. Something's not feeling right. I mean, what's nice is with the values work that I do, you can name it. It's like there. But you just kind of know, like something is like an ick factor or something like that, or a creep factor, or something's bothering you about this person. So you have to trust that,
Yeah. Well, I heard something that complements what you just said about trusting your gut, but in the positive slant too. Like sometimes the guy might say you're a woman and you're considering this guy, and he maybe doesn't check all the boxes and maybe he doesn't look the part, but you feel safe with him, or you feel a sense of peace when you're with him. And that, one of the dating experts out there, Logan Ury, she says, like, listen to that too, because if you're feeling that sense of safety and peace, that could be the signal that he might be the one for you. Right.
I have a woman in her 40s, and she met this guy through a conference, and she says he's not my typical look. He's bald. He doesn't have hair, but she says, but I really like being with him. And so I said, okay, well, let's see where this goes. And it's kind of like Charlotte in Sex and the City. She ended up with, I forgot his name, but he was bald.
Yeah. I actually thought that guy was quite attractive. I don't know. I have a strange taste in men, but I was going to tell you, I felt that way about my husband. Like at first, I didn't find him super attractive. He wasn't the typical guy I would have dated, but I just felt this sense of peace with him, and I felt good around him, and the attraction grew over time. So
I have the 6 signs it's the right person in my book, and one is the feeling of home, like this person. And like when I met my husband, when my husband and I had a couple of dates and stuff, I mean, he can make me laugh, and then we did some silly stuff, and I really feel he has a very similar background to me. And we have similar families. And so from that standpoint, there's a real feeling of comfort. But sometimes when there's this feeling of comfort, and I don't know if you know about the imago stuff and the when somebody is if you have a difficult parent, actually, if we're not conscious and we're not working consciously, we can be attracted to that person because we're trying to heal our relationships through the next person.
That's
true. So I ended up marrying one of my parents that I have a difficult relationship with, I won't say, but that was my first husband who was a little more controlling, and he did stuff for me. And I like that. I like when people do stuff for me, acts of service. And so he like checked all, I don't know, it felt very comfortable for me.
Yeah.
And yet there was something there that I was not aware of, and there was a controlling behavior, and sometimes you don't see it because they're they're wolves in sheep's clothing, basically. The narcissist.
Thanks for bringing that up. That's, I guess, is like the advice to listen to your gut. If it's a good feeling and you haven't done your self-healing work yet to really understand yourself and your parent, like your relationship with your parents, that comfort might not be the what you really need in a healthy relationship,
right? Or set really good boundaries and know what you're getting yourself into, and we can never assume, so that person's never going to be a carbon copy of the past, but they may bring some characteristics into the
Very true. Good point. Very good point. So I know you being a coach and having had all this experience, you've talked about values, you've talked about expectations, you've talked about signs. What about mindset shifts? Are there any good mindset shifts that you think can create the best chance for success?
Right. So a lot of people come in with, and I don't know what term you use, but I was trained with gremlins or saboteurs. So sometimes we're not our 25-year-old selves anymore. We may are our 40s, 50s, 60s, beyond. And so really is getting you focused on who you are and what you have to a relationship. And I have 70-year-old women who are dating, so if they could do it, right? And I've had 50-year-olds who've never been married. And I had a 70-year-old never married, and she was in a very nice, significant relationship. So again, you're coming with this baggage, you're coming with this lens, and it's like, who wants me? And the I'm not lovable, maybe gremlin, or whatever you want to name it. It's not a positive thing. And so we have to reframe. And so I created something called the Thrive model, which keeps you focused on who you are, like your talents and your heart and how you give to the world, and your interests and your values, how you give to the world and who you are, instead of the whatnots. And somebody's going to appreciate you. And I do believe there's a lid for every pot. And I find people of all persuasions, all ethnicities, all races, all nationalities, all heights. I get short men coming to me, and they're like, they don't want me. I'm not tall. I'm like, there are plenty of women who will want you. It's just, I'm not. I can't let them feed into that. And so there is a kind of a mindset shift. Sometimes it's a scarcity mindset. There aren't any good people out there. And I'm like, there are plenty of good people out there. You just got to find them. It's a timing issue. And so I work with them on that. And so with the online dating, I mean, yes, you have to sift through lots of stuff and the scammers, but there are gems out there. And there's sweet men and women who really want relationships. And I've seen it time and time again. And it's just recognizing it and giving that person a chance and setting some boundaries. So you're not like going back and forth messaging for a month or more, but, kind of calling. If a person is real, if a person really wants a relationship, they will show up in person.
Yes. So you're saying like set a boundary to meet fairly quickly after you
unless there's an extenuating circumstance. I'm going off to Europe with my grandchildren, or I'm taking a class, or I have a work thing, and I'm not going to be done until I'm going, I'm working on it.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're extenuating health issues, I call them external roadblocks. Sometimes,
Mm.
I've had clients who've had back surgery. That was an
Mm.
external roadblock, and had to work, they were kind of out of commission for 6 months.
Yeah.
But, then you say, well, why are they online? Because they're lonely, so it's kind of like people are out there. Sometimes they're not ready.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're not available. And just like this guy with my client, he met her. I guess they met online, or and 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 it looked like it was good. And then all of a sudden, it's like, oh, well, their goals weren't aligned. I'm taking a consulting job. It's going to take up this much time. I'm going to have to travel. My client, that's not what she signed up for. And
Mm.
so that's what changes. Sometimes people, like, their situation changes. I mean, I was
Mm.
dating a guy and goes, oh, I'm going back to school for law school. I'm like, what? No way. I'm not supporting somebody going back to law school. I'm like,
Yeah.
and this was in my 30s. This was like, I was 37 at the time, and I think he was pushing 40. I'm like, that's
Mhm.
great. I'm not going along for that ride.
Right. Right. Yeah. It's good that you knew what you wanted, and you set that boundary, and you're like, no, that's not for me. Things, if circumstances change, you recognize that you don't have to be making trying so hard to make something work if the
It
circumstances are
really,
not.
you know what? There's a flow. When it works, there's a flow. Both people
Mhm.
want the relationship. I've seen it time and time again. And so that's what we work towards. I work towards making sure that my clients are making the most of their opportunities, and being aware of what their opportunities are.
Yeah, that's so cool. So and you've worked with so many people. What habits or behaviors tend to separate out the people who eventually find a great relationship from those who stay stuck?
It's interesting. You know what I just noticed? I noticed that the people who are responsive,
Mm.
if they're responsive to me, I know that they're going to be a good partner. And I know I'm going to have a better chance of working with them, and they are going to be better with communicating with a potential partner. If I'm having trouble reaching somebody, and they're like, I, you know, I have people who fill out. I have a form, like, get to know. It's called Get to Know You form. It's just so I can have a deep, nice conversation with you, and then I'll follow up and say, hey, let's talk. I'll never hear back, and it's like, what's going on? I mean,
Mm.
just let me know. I have a value, like, I don't care if you say I'm not available for a month, but just let me know. I mean, if I'm going to reach out to you, so if they're doing this to me, they must be doing it to other people. So you're asking, what it says, someone who, like, shows interest, wants to learn, wants to better themselves,
Yeah.
is open, willing to communicate their needs. I had a woman who, for one reason or another. Okay, so we had our coaching session at 5 o'clock. 5 o'clock's the time. My husband texts me. My son wants the car. I mean, and my mother is like, I have a 95-year-old mother, when are you calling me? Okay. So she's like, you're so diverted. I mean, and I'm glad she told me.
Yeah.
And I said, you know what? We're coaching at a time which is difficult for me. Let's not coach at that time. And now we pick a time where I can focus on her and I don't have things pulling at me. So
Yes.
the good news is she communicated her needs to me. That's a
Yes.
relationship skill. And she
Wow.
wasn't afraid. I mean, yes, she's paying me and she wants to get her money's worth. Okay, I appreciate that. And I appreciate knowing and working it out. And we ended up having a really wonderful, coaching relationship, because I
Yeah.
was able to kind of meet her to her needs, but I needed to know. So you need to tell somebody what you need, what's important for you. And I help my clients um, express their expectations, in a way. And that's what I really bring to, like, the coaching. A lot of times my clients meet somebody And it's, then what, right? Because it's no guarantee it's going to go towards a more
Right.
committed relationship. And, the smart people keep me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I mean, I had a woman who she met this guy and he seemed great, but they had some issues. And I think it was a year and a half. I was coaching her until she was practically engaged. And it was his sister that was a controlling person who was causing issues.
Wow.
And she's like, she needed me to support her. And I do couples coaching, but she ended up using one of my colleagues to do the couples coaching with her partner. And he was
Yeah.
open to it.
He was
So,
open. That's good.
but after that, they were golden. But sometimes you got to work out the little kinks in the beginning. There are things I call glitches. And
Right.
so, sometimes I find out my clients the relationship didn't move forward.
Mhm.
And I wish, in a sense, I wish I could have been there to support them through that. Maybe it would have had a different result, maybe not. But
Yeah. Yeah,
but
no,
we
I see. I know what you mean, and I've only been in this realm of dating and helping people find what friendships or relationships in for like 2 years. But even in the last 2 years, I've seen it where dating isn't finding the right person or finding a person that you want to date. It isn't the happy ending that like they show in the movies, right? Like then the real work starts. Because I've seen a lot. I've seen a few early relationships fall apart because of communication gaps and issues, like early issues that could have been.
or external roadblocks. I mean, I know relationships who blew up because of the way she handled him in relation to her grown children. Yeah. And things like moving into somebody's house during the pandemic, that was very close quarters. And then it's how she treated his kids versus her kids, and how the kids treated him. And, everybody has to feel like they're being respected. And
Yeah.
so eventually the relationship imploded. Yeah. So
Oh,
I do believe that relationships are organic. They're either going to move forward or they're going to move apart. There's that kind of thing. And some of them just kind of chug along, and some of them are quick, and some of them take time. So, everybody's got their own pacing, and there's, you have to kind of look at all the factors. So,
complicated. If it was easy, there would be a lot more people in relationships, right? Like, and yeah, it's definitely complex.
not everybody wants a relationship, so that's a choice. There's certain age groups, and I mean, not everyone wants to be coupled. So again, you have to know yourself and know what you want. And I have people who come to me because they don't want to have any regrets. I have a woman who was in her 50s, never married, and she said, "You know why I'm doing this? Because I don't want to live a life of regrets." And what the conclusion was? I'm happy the way I am. If I meet someone, great. If not, and she's introverted, she's got her profession, she's got her friends, she doesn't have a high need. And then there are those of us who are more I'm extroverted, and I never see myself not in a relationship. I mean, maybe when I'm older, but at this point, I mean, I really like having a partner.
Yeah, like I agree. Like I'm not out here trying to force people into being in a couple. If somebody doesn't want to be in a couple, that's more power to them, and I trust them to know themselves enough that they think that that's the right choice for them, and no judgment here, because I think there's pros and cons to both setups, right?
And there's timing, if you're not going to be a good partner. There's a really cute guy who's in my, I was in a bicycling group for singles, and And, I kind of hang out and network, and I know, in part of my community and things like that. And then I always run into this guy every time I go to this location where we go for dinner and listen to music and things. He lives in that neighborhood. I mean, so he's very cute. And anyway, once he had a little booth with his little like birding stuff and pictures and things, and he does like these little crafts and stuff. And he goes, and I don't know, I was talking to him. He goes, I'm not motivated. I'm like, yeah. And then you're like, he's happy just doing one, but he shows up, he's friendly, but then he gets to go home and recharge and whatever. I mean, it's kind of sad because he's a really cute guy, but but that's his choice.
That's his choice. He, like, not to be cheesy with the name of my brand, but you fill your cup. There's other ways to fill your cup, right? It's not just about finding a partner. Although for those of us who are happy in relationships, we're very grateful that we found those people, right? So yeah, there's many ways to fill your cup. So Amy, before we close the episode, what else would you want the listeners to know? And where can listeners find you? Is there anything special you want to tell them about you and your service?
The best thing to do is to go to my website, which is Motivated to Marry. And like I said, marriage is a choice. It's really about having healthy, committed relationships. And I have a lot of information there. I have a blog. And I do have an email list where I send out a weekly newsletter with an article and some of the things. And my workshops, I do different virtual workshops. And so if you want to learn more and you want to hang out with me in my community, you're more than welcome. And I have a YouTube channel. I think it's Relationship Coach Amy Schoen. And but all I can say is just, be true to yourself and be true to others, and just take the time to learn more and grow. And if this is something that you want, if you want to find that special person, then I have a very supportive community. It's not a big group of people. It's a small group of people. And I do weekly what I call coaching club calls, and we get on and I support them wherever they're at in their journey, as well as, working with clients individually. So it's a choice. Some people rather work one-on-one, and some people really like the community. And I have both men and women in my community, so you get to hear both perspectives.
That's awesome. That's important too, because I've seen singles have these stories about the other side, right? And those they're not helpful. They're not productive, right? So Amy, thank you so much for joining us and sharing your wisdom.
For having me.
Yeah, it was a pleasure. And I feel like you added so much value for those who are interested in this topic, which, I find it super interesting. One of the things I appreciate the most about the conversation is the reminder that finding a meaningful relationship isn't just about finding the right person. It's also about understanding ourselves and examining the expectations that we carry, and for creating space for that genuine connection. For those listening, I hope today's conversation encourages you to approach your dating journey with curiosity, openness, and self-compassion. Meaningful relationships often begin with the relationship we have with ourselves. Amy, thanks again for being here. And thank you to all the listeners for spending time with us. If this episode resonated with you, be sure to share it with someone who might be hearing it. Like and subscribe. And until next time, stay connected to yourself and others, and keep filling your cup.